What is going on, you sexy mother hubbards? It's Sunday and it's time for an alternative paper review. First up to the Sunday Express today. Labour are cowards over boats crisis. This is a story that James Cleverly, our Home Secretary, is criticising Labour for not having a plan with which to deal with the small boats crisis. And this is, of course, your periodical reminder that there is only a quote-unquote crisis because the Tories shut down all the processing centres. If they actually offered a humane and efficient route in to process refugees from the conflicts that we ourselves economically benefit from, then you probably wouldn't get a load of people traffickers selling them tickets to the dinghy ride, would you? But yes, this is the latest in a suite of Labour don't have a plan lines that have been coming out of CCHQ, you know, in the run-up to or ahead of the general election, after which I suppose the Labour line coming out of Labour comms will be the Tories don't have any seats. Over to the Sun now for a world exclusive. Hugh's new lady. What? Let's just move on. The Sunday Times headline is something about an unelected, ostracised, banned from Parliament guy called Boris Johnson. But let's move over to this side bit. Sunak, I will squeeze benefits to cut tax. Now, this is very much where we are now, isn't it? Is the Tories' penchant for low tax, you know, that conservatism pillar of reducing taxes, a smaller state, all of that stuff. And the pressure from backbenchers to get back to that and to abandon this idea of con-socialism, you know, a big state and furlough and quantitative easing and all that. Where we're at now is they need to cut taxes. They know that. Everybody knows that the Conservatives need to find a way to cut taxes, but they can't afford to. And so, I suppose where we're at is the only option they have left is to further savage and decimate the public services, the benefits, like basically make life harder for people who already have a pretty hard life. Like if it's the choice between their own political or professional survival or your actual survival, take a wild guess which is more important to them. Finally, to the Daily Telegraph. Don't march alongside extremists, Gove tells protesters. Which I think is interesting, you know, because this is a real story of like the Overton window, right? The Conservative Party used to be centre-right. Now they are far-right. You've got people like Suella Braverman, Leanderthal, Michael Gove to some extent. All of them have arguably gotten further to the right. You know, they talk about immigrants being invaders. They tell refugees to F off back to France. And where we've got to now is they've gone so far to the right that now something is sort of middle ground and normal as, can we have a little bit of peace, please? To them, that is extremist. I mean, it is pretty funny seeing this plastered across the front page of the Telegraph. Like, if you've casted a glance across the Telegraph's opinion pages any time over the last 6 months or a year, you would have seen stories ranging from vaccine skepticism to demonising lockdown to talking about the deep state. The Telegraph is, of course, desperate to be purchased by Paul Marshall of GB News fame, who I think last week was exposed for having shared extremist content, like Islamophobic content, homophobic content. Like, if you haven't listened to that one episode of The Newsagents, which was like a sort of expose about him, I strongly urge you to go back and find it. It was about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. So for the Telegraph to channel a Michael Gove quote that's like, oh, careful guys, careful, don't go associating with extremists. It's like, oh, you don't want me to associate with extremists? Okay, all right. Well, I guess I won't pick up a copy then. Guys, that's it for this one. Do check out Friday night's podcast. That should be out everywhere now. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It comes off YouTube Community and out to regular YouTube. The next solo one will go out to Patreon and YouTube Community backers on Tuesday. And, oh, before I go, happy Mother's Day to each and every one of your mothers.